Okay, hello Iron Mountains. Here comes part two of tools, leather tools, and their uses. So this video we're shooting down in my front of my leather workstation. So we're gonna go over first a couple tools I forgot to mention in part one, just to show you. First is a rotary punch, pretty standard. Find them 10, 15 bucks, pretty much anywhere. I have the option of punching holes with that. Another one is the screw out type here. These are also about $10, and this has the advantage of multiple things. You can have both. You can pick your choose. This one's better for getting into bigger projects. This is great for small little projects, but you know, as such as that. Then there's also what I tend to do is use standalone hole punches in different size. The two main sizes I use the most, I don't know if you can see if we can get this on here, is a 3/32 number 1 craft tool and a number 2 1/8 craft tool. The 3/32 or number 1 is great for standard pop rivets and such, and the number 2 is good for thicker rivets such as brass and copper rivets, which we will talk about in another session. So that's 3 different ways you can punch holes into leather if you like. So now the first tool we're going to talk about, as far as you want to upgrade and start with your kit, is a edge beveler. This happens to be the cheaper version, the $8, $10 one you can get from Tandy. So this is a good starter one. But I will tell you, when it comes to leather tools, you get what you pay for. So this is the standard one, and then we're going to show you a couple of my favorite. These are our Mastercraft from Weaver leather crafts. The difference is $10, $40, or probably closer to 60. But you can definitely see the difference in the quality and overall size. But if you're not as serious into leatherworking, you don't need to go this, and a basic one will fit. So that is something you might want to consider upgrading over time as you get better and do more leather work. And then, so the next thing we discussed, as we discussed before, was the swivel knife. I think you can see this one. Well, lighting's pretty bad. Let me make it. With the 45 ceramic blade. So that is a steel blade. Typically is what you could get with the cheap ones. Even the more expensive one will only come with a steel blade. But the ceramic blade is an absolute nice upgrade. Now, we talked about modeling spoons. So when we're doing leather work, I like to use a backgrounder. I don't know if this is really there. Doesn't really matter. It's just, I like to use background stamps. Stamps are cheap. They're typically, once again, you get what you pay for, but you can buy stamps crazy. Now, as we discussed earlier, if you go to places such as Weaver, or a lot of times eBay is your friend, you can buy a whole set. Now I have multiple sizes, but the most common size I use is a 6mm, which is, I'm going to use this as my pointer, the distance between points here. So that is 6mm from point to point. So you got the big one for 6, one for longer ones, 4, 2, 1, and in a future video I'll show you how these are all used. But for right now, so a set like that costs about $25, and I think it is very well worth buying the upgrade, especially if we only bought a single one like before. Some other upgrade tools we talked about. Another mainstay is a strap cutter. This one's a little fancy. I dyed it and customized it myself, but this is just a absolute big item. Definitely worth buying. They're about $20 depending on. Once again, this will be later. Right now we're just showing you tools, but this is definitely something you're going to use a lot of in the future. Then we discussed there, while I'm at it, these are, I have two different types. One is a, I don't know if you can really see that, but it's got more of a spear type, and this is just a round punch awl. And I'll show you how these are used. I think this one's about $15, but you can replace the blades, which is nice. So if you break it, you're not losing out the whole thing. And it has another good tool to have when you're upgrading. And speaking of edgers, this is my slick tool. It is well used, as you can tell. We will be using this to finish off the edges, which we will talk about in a future use. Almost every starter kit you can buy will come with this, and we'll discuss starter kits before the end of the video. Then, as I was saying, so we have the 2 pound the 2 pound dead blow, and then we have here, I'm just going to show off, I can't help it, this is a 2 pound Barry King hammer. They give you a price range. This one's about $75 to $80 if you buy directly from him, but he is an American company and he's out of Sheraton, Wyoming, so get to buy local and support America. Another hammer I bought online is just a double-ended brass hammer. This is what I use when I really have to do some serious punch work, usually punching ends of leather and such, which we'll show you towards in another project. But that's another possible upgrade to your dead blow. The dead blow certainly does work. You do not want to use a rubber hammer. It bounces too much and such, so you want to use that. And then another thing, as you probably see right here, this counter right here is a granite block. This was actually used to be a bathroom countertop that got broken up, so I got to steal it. Well, I didn't steal it, I was giving it to it, but it is a great deal. This is what you do most of your punching, carving, stamping on. You can also buy a smaller 12-inch block, or you can go to like scrap yards and places like that and get scraps for free typically. So this is a great upgrade. You're definitely going to want this. And then, so when we get into punching and stuff, you have two options. A cheap option is just a standard cutting board. You can use this for anywhere from $6 to $20 for a plastic one. Do not use wood. Do not use a cutting board. That will blunt and dull your edges of your punching irons. Another tool I use quite a bit that I've enjoyed an upgrade is a standard rubber cutting punch mat. You can also get cheap, if you can find them, track material used for like belts, for industrial belts, or even old truck mud flaps can be very useful for this. And then if that's not even in your budget, a very cheap budget, a good thick piece of scrap leather. All you're gonna do is put that under there, so when you're pounding the thing, it's not going into the, you don't want that. You want to go into there, and we'll discuss how to properly punch stuff later. But that is the next thing, is you can also just use some scrap thick leather, a punch board, or even a cheap cutting board. Some other nice upgrades. We talked about the punches that are there. Oh, so I'm going to bring you over to my other workshop here, the other side of my workshop, because I am not going to stay here. So right here, obviously, is my needle nose pliers we discussed earlier, and these are round end punches. And of course, I made this myself, so that was practically free from scrap. Now, this is a really nice quality of life upgrade tool. What you spend on these depends on, I think I bought these for $15 on Wish. That being said, I had to put a lot of work into sharpening and polishing and carving these to make these things actually cut. They're pretty blunt when you come from if you buy them from Wish, but they're a great upgrade. Now up here, we're going to start on the right here. Oh my gosh, I apologize for that. This is an oblong punch. It is not, it's another one of these great quality of life tools. I'll show you how to make buckle. You use this to make holes for the buckles, but I'll show you how to not, if you don't need this, but they're a great quality of life tool. Now these do get expensive. These are about $40, $60 for the big one. You probably will never really need that big one unless you start doing like belt stuff. And then over here are my English points ends. They're also about $40 a piece, different sizes. So if you want to get these, what I recommend is, whatever strap size you use the most, buy the coordinating one first, and then you can buy from there. So I use a lot of 5/8, so the 5/8 is the first thing you buy. Another good thing you're going to need is a smaller size anvil like this will work great. This is also Arbor Freight. I think this is about an 8-pound anvil. Later in my shop, you'll see the big boy I have, but this is well worth buying for setting rivets and stuff, especially when we get into copper rivets. You don't want to do that on your countertop. Next thing you want to get is some kind of organizer. Any nut and bolt organizer will work, so you can put all your washers and rivets and stuff as you get going. As you collect more and more, you get more and more. So those are all there. I have my little teacup here of paint brushes. You'll end up with an assortment of paint brushes and paints. So now we're going to go back over here. It's just if you're curious, this is my front of my workshop. Now we've talked about pretty much that's all the main tools I use. I'll go ahead. We will not discuss paints and such as this time. I'm trying to keep these videos at 10 minutes or so, but I think that does give you a good idea of all the various tools that are going to be needed for the basics and some potential upgrades and up things. And then next video we'll start working on, it will probably be about the leather types and then the different types of leather. And from there, that one will be pretty short, probably 5 minutes. And then we will probably jump into how to actually use said tools and how to get around using them and such. So with that, that does it for tools and their uses. I hope you found this information informative. Until next time, stay crafty.